A while ago, after watching the latest Batman movie, I decided I wanted to do a watch through of every Batman movie ever in chronological order. And that meant watching the Adam West one. Hi, I'm James. 2 fun Batman movie facts. First, the very first one, which was more a serial that was played in theaters, was incredibly racist World War II propaganda. It's worth watching just for the historical context of it. It is wild. And also, while not official, apparently Andy Warhol made a Batman movie, and there's no known surviving copies, which breaks my heart. But I'm here to dork out today about dungeons and design and luchadors on Crumbling Keep's The Dungeon Dorks. So today I am playing Head Cheese Productions' game Luchador Hero, which is a solo RPG focusing around, who wants to guess, luchadors. But it is worth taking a note of some of the inspirations the game has listed, because I do want to take it a slightly different way today. So Martin writes here, this game is mainly a love letter to the Santo and Blue Demon movies, as well as serials like Batman 66, the Venture Brothers, Scooby-Doo, Hellboy, and the BPRD comics, and it lists a few others. Batman 66 is a timepiece, right? It happened at a very specific time in American history. Batman was not like that before Batman 66, and Batman would not be like that again. There wasn't such camp. There wasn't the psychedelic dance scenes. I would love to see how it all came together. I'm sure there's got to be a documentary out there somewhere, because it really is a unique thing. And I want to use Luchador Hero to have that kind of game. So that's what I'm going to do today. So, without further ado, for folks who are listening to this as a podcast, I do want to remark that there will be video on our YouTube channel if you want to see the dice rolls and the character sheet and things such as that. I have a rather low-tech setup here. I have a character sheet brought up in an image editor so I can write numbers on it and whatnot. And I am using Google to roll dice. Did you know you can just say roll 1d6 in Google and it will do just that? And so that's my kind of low-tech solo setup that we're using today. So, we're going to start with character creation. First, choose a civilian name for your luchador or roll on the table below. So I am going to choose a name, and since we have mentioned Batman already, I am going to go with his very familiar butler, Alfred. Alright, so next, choose a ring name or roll on the table below. Alright, so let's see. I think I am going to roll on this table to just maybe get a little bit of inspiration. See if I like what happens here, because I don't have a great idea for this yet. 4. Wrecker/Angel. I think we will go with the Wrecker, which is going to go under ring name/alias, even though I don't think that the Wrecker in my game is ever going to step foot in a ring. I do kind of like the idea of having a Playboy persona. You know, I do kind of want to play in that world, so we're going to do that. Okay, so we're going to start off with 6 vitality points, which will be my max and my current. Okay, and 1d3 resolve points. Okay, so let's get a little roll here. We'll divide that in half and round up. So that is going to be 3 resolve points. That's great. We got lucky here, and I am not complaining. This is actually, I've read this game multiple times, and the first time was a while ago, and I have yet to actually play through it. So this is kind of exciting. This is my first playthrough. So if it seems like I don't know what I'm doing, it's generally because I don't, and I don't just mean that for this playthrough. I mean it for anything that you watch me do or hear me say, but I talk a good game and I fake it all right. Okay, so we have 1 hero point as well. 3 resolve points because we roll a 5 on that 1d6 roll. Well, 1d3, rounded up, yada yada. And 1 hero point because everyone starts with that. Now, you might be asking yourselves, what does that mean? So vitality points, they're hit points, right? And I say that because everyone knows what hit points are, and it's just easier. Resolve points I can spend to add +1 to any dice roll. And I can spend as many of them as I want. Like, I can spend them all at one time. But they're not going to regenerate until the next time I go on an adventure, so I do want to use them sparingly. So hero points. So this game is about dice pools and rolling d6s in a dice pool and taking your highest result. For hero points, if I roll a hero dice, and whatever the result of that hero dice is, I add to my highest dice number. So it's possible to get a really high roll with that, which is good because in something like combat, the damage done is the difference between your high roll and their difficulty level. I forget the exact stat name, but we'll get there. But you get the idea. Kind of like in marching order. So, that's our basis for resolve points and hero points. Now we get to assign 3 dots to the skills. So in Luchador Hero, there are 3 skills. There's muscles, acrobatics, and brains. And I can have between 1 and 3 dots in each one. Now that's tough, right? Because I definitely want to go for 1 brains. I want to kind of play up the detective aspect of my not Batman, right? So I think what we're going to do is we're going to do 2 dots in brains. We're going to do 1 dots in acrobatics because I think it's more important to be quick and flexible than strong. So that doesn't leave us with any dots. So that means none in muscle. So we got 2 in brains, 1 in acrobatics, 1 in muscle. I thought about just making it even across the line, but that doesn't seem as interesting mechanically because then there's no real variation when I'm rolling. Whatever skill I was rolling, I would make the same roll, and that's it's kind of boring. So 2 brains, 1 acrobatic, 1 muscle. And those represent what you think, right? Brains is smart, acrobatics is like reflexes, dexterity, etc. And muscles is, I refuse to answer this question for you. If you don't know what muscles are, just stop watching now. Okay, so now we get to choose an archetype, which is going to further modify the wrestler. And I did look at these ahead of time. And I was thinking about either going Super Spy, which would give me another dot in acrobatics and an additional asset, or Sleuth. I gain 1d6 additional resolve points and roll with advantage when gathering clues. And resolve points are kind of a big deal if I can add to rolls, right? Like, and they can be added to any roll, so that would give me a lot of versatility. We're going to go with that and maybe regret it if we don't roll well on that. So we are a Sleuth. And I'm going to do my best to remember to roll at advantage when it comes to gathering clues. Anyone that listened to my last playthrough knows that I forgot the special rules for my character, which probably would have saved me and maybe got me out of Zombieville, but here we are. And, that is a roll of a 1, so I only have 1 more resolve point. A total of 4, which isn't the worst. And then that's, if I use them all on 1 roll, I'm pretty much set to succeed in anything. But that is only 1 roll. Okay, so now we get to roll for an asset. And I have rolled a 6. I have a smoke bomb. Single use, discard to flee combat without penalty. which that seems really reasonable thing for me to have. Whoops. Okay. Smoke bomb. Take a little note on that. Okay, and then we get to allies, which is going to be another d6 roll. I'm going to start with one ally, and it is going to be a police informant. I feel like I just found like Commissioner Gordon, you know? Well, I guess police informant is slightly different than someone who works in the police, and it's probably cooler. Okay, so police informant. Great, great. That will come into the fiction of the game a little later. You can interrogate an ally once per episode, and an episode is like a quest, one adventure, right? It's one thing start to finish, and you can succeed or lose at them. But anyway, you can interrogate them once per episode to try and get a clue. And the more clues you get, the better. Clues can be cashed in to do your like super special move, which can do a lot of damage. The more clues you spend on it, the more damage it can do. But we won't get too far into that. We'll get there when we get there. Okay, now my hero's drive is a 1d6. There's no mechanical anything attached to this. It's just fun. So why is Alfred the Wrecker a hero? I just rolled a 6, which is going to be for fame and glory, obviously. Okay, so this is kind of giving me a different picture than I originally had for this hero, and that's part of the fun for me, right? Like, I could have just picked something here. Justice and vengeance are options there. Protect a city, like all very Batman-esque ones. But I think it's more fun a lot of times for me to just go with what I roll. So we're going with fame and glory. So I'm seeing maybe someone a little more pompous, maybe someone who doesn't have an adequate amount of self-reflection. Maybe it's just because I've been watching the Righteous Gemstones lately, and I'm thinking of the main characters in there. So yeah, we're gonna play with that when the time comes. Okay, and now super special move, and all the special moves work the same. You spend clues to drop your special move. You can do it once per episode, and it has the ability to do potentially a lot of damage. And it's really just flavoring at this point. And I thought about it, and like they're all very classical, like wrestling moves that are listed on the table. Yeah, like looking at them, they're like there's not that newfangled wrestling stuff in there. And I thought about picking something that seemed more superhero appropriate, maybe, but I'm not going to. We're gonna go with I rolled a 4, and that's gonna be a moonsault. For anyone who does not know what a moonsault is, so a moonsault you will see when a wrestler gets on like the top turnbuckle, right? They face their opponent is laying on the ground. They face away from their opponent. They jump into the air and basically do a backflip and land on them belly down. And it's often was, I don't know if it's still the case, often was a finishing move. So in wrestling, finishing moves are like, this is something that their opponent is not supposed to get up from. It is an ending of the match. You know, like most wrestlers have a finisher and they save it toward the end. And it's wild how long that tradition has endured, and I kind of hope it never stops. Okay, so that is character creation. We have a character. So, rules. We're going to skip over the rules. I'm just going to explain what's happening as we do it, because this isn't a review show. I am not critical enough to ever do a review show as much as I like listening to them. I'm mostly just like, I look for the things I like in things. I look for things that I find inspiring, which doesn't make me a very critical reviewer. I am not often going to be like, this sucks, and let me tell you why, unless it is, what was that one D&D adventure that I absolutely hated? The one about the school. Strixhaven. Strixhaven was terrible. I ran that, and even the kids I was running for agreed, and I'm not just being a hater. It wasn't good. It was one of the most railroady things I've ever read in my entire life. Okay, fleeing human episode structure. Okay, so first up comes the intro scene. So the intro scene kind of tells us what our episode is going to be about, right? So let's start there. We're going to roll the dice, and that's going to give me a 6. So that's going to be the last option on the intro scene. Now this is a fun one. So let's envision where Alfred, the sleuth's HQ would be. I don't think Alfred is going to have a Batcave type situation. With that whole fame and fortune thing, I feel like he is more, he wants something more posh, right? So he has a secret room in his mansion that is like we're going to say it's a little bit like a 60s party den, right? He slides the bookcase aside, goes into the room. There's a conversation pit down there with a kind of circular couch and a table in the middle. A hookah sitting upon it. He walks to a painting and waves his hand in front of it, and it pulls up into the ceiling, revealing the big crime-fighting computer screen, and a console comes out into the wall, and the lighting is terrible. Absolutely terrible. Not quite strobish, but the coloring is not something I'd want to exist in for a very long time. And some music is playing as the alarm starts going off and the screen turns on, and it shows his informant, what was his informant? A police informant, right. A police informant. So the police informant's name is going to be Shakes. Let's make a note on that so I don't call him something different in like 5 seconds. Why is his name Shakes? Well, Shakes is a bit of an addict and doesn't always have his fix. So Shakes is calling. Well, yeah, okay. I just had to have a thought of like, when does this actually take place? And we're going to go with present day, right? Shakes is video calling on his cell phone. Hey, Alfred, you hear about that new wrestling club in town? Alfred scratches his chin. I have not, chap. I have bigger things to do with my time. But why do you ask? Oh, it's a new wrestling club, and so this is the prompt that I got. P.S. I'm not just making this up. There were luchadors there, trained, and they've been really fierce opponents. I mean, they've been putting on a great show, and it's exceptional strength. I saw one of them pick up the announcer's booth over their head. But recently one of them was hit in the head by a beer that was thrown by a rowdy spectator. Shakes. Can we get to the point? Why, I'm glad you're having a good time, but I'm a very busy man. Well, I'm getting there. Sparks started flying from his ears, man. His mouth and nostrils, sparks everywhere, and then a thick black smoke started coming out. He started twitching, but not like I twitch, not like I've seen other people twitch. And then he fell face down. I think he was some kind of robot or something, man. I don't know. I thought it seemed like the type of thing you'd want to know. And now Alfred's interest is piqued. My good man, this is the type of thing I want to know. Shakes, you've done it again. I'll send the standard payment to your Venmo. Oh man, thanks man. You're the best. I'll keep my ear to the ground. If I hear anything else weird, I'll let you know. That's great, Shakes. But use some discretion. If you tell me about the guy who won't stop scratching himself in the park again, well, I mean, it was weird. I'm sure it was, Shakes. All right, I'm off to investigate. The wrecker out, and the screen goes blank. And we are going to cut scene. Okay, so each scene contains one enemy, one task, and one clue. So before I start narrating the scene, let's figure out what the enemy and task are. And there are tables for this. So it is 2d6 for these. So our enemy, we'll roll that ahead of time, is going to be 5. A Cannibal Imp. Now the fun thing is going to be trying to get Cannibal Imp to match up with robot wrestlers, but it's fine. We're going to get real loosey-goosey here. And then we are going to go to tasks, because I believe it's one enemy and one task. That's going to be a 2. Oh, task is only 1d6, so we'll just take the first dice and say it's a 1. I'm going to have to interrogate a suspect or intimidate them. Okay, great. So, we made our character, we did our intro scene, and we know where we're going next. Just to recap, Alfred, the Wrecker, a hero for fame and fortune, has recently heard from his informant Shakes that there's a new wrestling club in town, and they might have robotic wrestlers, and he is going to investigate. And that's where we'll pick up next week when we do part 2. If you're enjoying these episodes, let me know. You can go to crumblingkeep.com/question and drop me a note, or just email me at info@crumblingkeep.com. Consequently, if the actual play episodes, the solo ones, are not your thing, you can let me know that too. I'm here to please, at least to some degree. Alfred, the Wrecker, on the other hand, is here to kick ass and look good doing it.
Thanks for listening to today's episode. If you have any questions about anything I talked about here today or on any past episodes of Dungeon Dorks, go to crumblingkeep.com/question and ask away, or just check the link in the show notes.